all could have been different, Mr. Walker. You should have allowed nature to take its course. In the end, it will anyway.
So let me the fucking house!
Now, this movie isn't talked about as much, but it's very much so a 90s classic in my eyes. A cautionary tale, if you will. I need all my youngins to watch this and take it all in, because even though this is fiction, the type of things that go on in this film happens every day. Listen, there are plenty of Davids in this world, and baby David was a big problem. This was truly a psychotic teenage love affair. And while watching this movie, I noticed so many things, and you know we're going to talk about it. So let's get into it. This movie starts off kind of weird, with the first shot being Nicole, a whole teenager, taking a shower. But then again, this is the 90s, so yeah. So after her shower, Nicole walks into the kitchen, and baby, her daddy, Steve, was not liking her outfit. And check out the ruffled socks. Child, those were for church only. There was no way I was wearing those with a regular outfit. But anyway, we also meet Toby, his new wife, Laura's son. Apparently, they are still getting adjusted to living under one roof, and it's been pretty awkward to say the least. We then go to Nicole and her friends, Margot and Gary, who have planned to skip school and go to a local bar to play hooky. Let me say that Margot was always trying to get into some shit. We'll see more of this as the film progresses. But at this bar, Nicole spies with her little eye a hottie. Though we've come to know Mark Wahlberg to be a bit problematic, I can't deny that he looked good in this film. But anyway, David, that's his character's name by the way, spots Nicole as well, and it's clear that they are both feeling each other. We then go to Nicole and Margot chilling by the pool chatting. Margot's looking at a magazine and wondering out loud how amazing it would be for men to fantasize over her. Margot equates men fantasizing over her as power. But child, you think you want that. But she's young and doesn't quite get how dangerous that is. Shortly after, Margot's mom leaves out. Apparently she's going out of town and tells Margot where to reach her if she needs anything. Listen, as a former latchkey kid, our parents used to really leave us in the house by ourselves. But to leave your child in a whole other city though? To go see your boo thing? Baby, not in 2023. And Margot clearly needs supervision because she was wild. Like I said, we'll see this later. But anyway, we go to Nicole and her dad. They start talking about things that happened when she was younger that her dad doesn't seem to remember. And she confronts him about it by telling him that there's nothing in her life that involved her parents that she doesn't remember, and she believes that he actively chooses to block those memories out. Her dad blames his forgetfulness on his age and tries to convince Nicole to try a little harder when it comes to participating in family activities. It's clear that their relationship is strained and Nicole is detached. And urging Nicole to be more involved proves to be in vain because shortly after they get home, her dad gets a call that he needs to travel for work, thus ending their plans to go to a concert as a family. And this turns into yet another time that Nicole's dad couldn't keep a promise or ducked out of plans, and this irritates Nicole enough that she calls hot in the pants Margot to go hit up a club. So they go to this club and it was given peak 90s. And in straight Margot fashion, she spots this guy in the middle of the floor and goes over to dance with him, leaving Nicole to find a little corner and spy on the crowd. And in comes David. First things first, this guy's vibe is so intense. He just stares into her soul, and their first convo was super awkward.
You're not dancing.
I know. You aren't either. How come?
Well, because nobody's asking.
Shortly after, there's a brawl and everybody runs out the club, and Nicole straight up leaves Margot. Listen, if we come together, we leaving together, period. But baby, Nicole and David find themselves on the roof of the club and it's a hot mess. Helicopters are swarming, everybody's running, and as Nicole is about to climb down the ladder on the side of the building, she spots Margot. I'll see you later. Girl, where you going? And do you even know him? See what I'm talking about? Margot was a trip, but David and Nicole go off to a park to talk. She don't even know this dude for real, and Nicole ends up telling him her whole life story, and he's just soaking it all up. Mind you, while all this is happening, Nicole's stepmom, Laura, is waiting for her. But Nicole is busy telling David how she was raised by both of her parents in LA until they divorced and her dad left her with her mom. Apparently, her mom was depressed after they divorced, and they never say if she's alive, dead, or in treatment. But David tells her little about his parents, only saying that they don't stay in the same city and that they have a weird relationship. And David was laying on the charm, taking in all this little info so that he could mold himself to who he needed to be for her. And Nicole believes that he's too good to be true, and baby, he is, but she will soon see. Wait for it. Nicole then suggests that they head out, but then David winds back her watch as if that stops time worldwide and urges that she stay, and they even have their first kiss. Yeah, this shit is moving hella fast. And when Nicole finally makes it home, her stepmom wasn't trying to hear none of her excuses. She even throws out a little insult.
I'm angry, Nicole. Just go to bed. Take off your makeup. You look like a slut.
She went too far with that one. But her dad finds out about her late night and he attempts to get her together. But he completely overlooks her being out late and focuses in on the guy she was with. I understand that was important too, but this causes him to not acknowledge her coming in late and leaving her stepmom worried.
Yeah. I'll apologize to her when she apologizes to me for calling me a slut.
Child. And this is where the love bombing starts. We have a montage time of David coming to pick her up from school, had these girls shook. How old was he supposed to be for this film? I don't know how to feel about this. She's hanging with him, making out with him. I mean, they are speeding through this love thing. Before you knew it, it was time to meet the parents, and baby Nicole's dad was shook. Child, David was even love bombing the parents. Granted, Nicole's dad was not falling for this shit. But this is where we get to see Margot being Margot. Like, why was she trying to flirt with her best friend's daddy?
Ride the bumper cars, throw the ball at something, and maybe win me a stuffed animal.
And David peeps all of this. The fact that she did this in front of both of them, this was just, it was very weird. But Nicole's dad tells David that Nicole's curfew is at 10. But when he gets a call and is distracted, David changes the time back on his clock and he and Nicole head out. And now Laura's pissed since Nicole has managed to duck out without taking out the trash yet again. But later on, we see Nicole and David at a carnival. They are having a great time, but it gets even greater with some Ferris wheel action. Yeah, this is weird to watch. But back home, Nicole's dad was supposed to send some important docs off by a certain time, and when his buddy tells him the true time, he realizes that Nicole didn't make curfew. Now he sees where Laura was coming from. Again, we have parents leaving their kids while they leave the state, and Nicole is going to be all alone with her stepbrother Toby. And she makes the dumbest decision ever. That later comes back to bite her in the ass. She tells David that she'll be all alone and wants him to come over. And instead of staying up and letting him in, she gives him the code to their home. She don't even know him like that. Girl, what are you doing? But he lets himself in, and of course, and you might have guessed it, boots get to knocking. During their sessions, he tells Nicole that he loves her for the first time. David has laid it on thick up until this point, but this is where things get interesting. So, David goes to pick Nicole up after school per usual, but this time he sees her friend Gary hugging her goodbye and the psychotic tendencies emerge. And this scares Nicole, as it should. She ends up getting a black eye from their tussle and lies to Laura about it by saying she got it from gym class. And Laura believes her and offers her some makeup to hide it up a bit better. She does tell Nicole's dad, and of course, he became suspicious. But tell me this, Why is David able to get into the school so easily though? He just walking around and spying on her, leaving her notes in her locker. A mess. And David is in his feelings. His supply is MIA and he don't know what to do with himself but get into trouble with his friends. Apparently, they are holed up at a friend's, but it's temporary and soon they will have to find somewhere else to go. The next day, Nicole receives flowers from David, but she quickly chucks them in the trash. For a moment, she considers confiding in Laura, but changes her mind. So later that night, Laura and Nicole's dad overhear her crying in her room, and Laura offers to go talk to her. And when Nicole is finally opening up, here comes her daddy to stop the flow of conversation. I believe if he hadn't interrupted, she would have fully confided in Laura. Cause he says this and it's downhill from there.
I want you to understand that whatever you think I may have done to disappoint you is no reason for you to go screw up your whole life. As long as you're living in my house, you'll follow my rules.
Then he starts barking orders, and though he's telling the truth about David not being a good guy, Nicole can't hear it or take it in because now her guard is up. And it turns out he's super mad because he found a condom in her room. And then Nicole runs to the trash and takes out the envelope that came with the flowers. David left some pics of them in there, and you already know that soon enough, David will crawl his way back in. So sometime after, Nicole is chilling with Margot, and as luck would have it, David shows up with his friends. Nicole tries to leave out, but David stops her and he apologizes to her, spitting straight honey.
There's nothing that I can say will make what I did all right. It came from me feeling like I'd do anything to protect you. Knowing how many bad guys are out there. Guys that would take advantage of somebody like you. I learned from you, Nicole, I really did. And with you, it's different. And I promise nothing like that will ever happen again.
And then her dad gets the shock of his life. And baby, he is pissed. And David scores a point. So you already know Nicole's dad starts digging into David's life. Turns out David grew up in foster care until he aged out, and other than that, there's no information on him. So everything he told Nicole was a lie. And Nicole's dad goes up to her school and decides to have a man-to-man chat with David. He asks him to follow him around the corner, and he gets right to the point.
I don't want to beat around the bush. I came to tell you that you're going to stop seeing Nicole. Now, either you're as smart as you think you are and you'll just go away, or else you're going to make things a lot harder on yourself than they have to be.
And it goes completely left.
Some hip to your problems. I know you abandoned Nicole when she needed you most. I know about things coming apart at work. I also know you ain't keeping up, so to speak, your end of the bargain with the missus. Because if you were, she wouldn't be all over my stick.
Child. But Nicole's dad wasn't going. And when he tells him off, this enrages David. And this is where it starts to get juicy. And the tug of war begins. So, after this, David tells Nicole that her dad assaulted him, and Nicole believes him because he showed her the self-inflicted bruises to his chest. And she comes home and tells off her dad and leaves out. And when he runs after her, Nicole's dad sees a familiar face. Then Nicole's dad tries to get the police involved, but they're not trying to hear anything he has to say. He's pushed this girl into the arms of a full-fledged psycho. When Nicole gets home, she decides last minute to go right back to David. So when she goes to David's home, she ends up seeing something she thought she would never see. Little Miss Margot is hunching on one of David's friends, and lo and behold, David asks to be next in line. Well, more like demands. And it turns out David and his friends have been taking full advantage of Margot, and Nicole sees him for who he truly is. Finally. Damn. So she runs home and admits defeat to her dad, and she finally realizes that he was right about David. But the hurt is deeper this time because now she's lost a friend. So the next day, she's at school talking to Gary, and listen, if I was Gary, I wouldn't even fool with her anymore. But Gary brings up Margot, and Nicole was over it.
Is Margot in bio?
She called, said she was sick.
She's honest.
Soon after, David shows up again. How is his ass getting into this school? Like, where's the school staff? Nicole is not trying to hear anything he has to say, and she starts screaming for help. Gary tells David to back off and leave her alone, which turns out to be the wrong thing to do, because now, whether he knows it or not, he's been added on David's hit list. And later on that night, Margot shows up to see why Nicole's been dodging her calls. Why did Margot say this to Toby though?
Hey there, handsome. When are you gonna grow up so I can ravage you?
Why would you even joke like that with a whole kid? Margot was a bit much, but Nicole finally tells her that she saw for herself what happened between her and David and doesn't want or need her friendship any longer. Once Margot realizes what she's referring to, her cool act fades and she tries to tell Nicole that she was forced to have sex with David, but Nicole doesn't believe her and this frustrates Margot.
Hey, he forced me. He made me do it. You're my only friend.
And Margot couldn't even go home and cry in peace because soon after she leaves Nicole's, she gets followed by David. He almost gets both of them killed, but Margot pulls over last minute and he goes up to her car to threaten her even more.
What the fuck did you say to her?
I swear, David, I didn't tell her. I don't know how she knows.
Better fix it. You better make it right again. Because if you don't, I'm gonna hurt you.
David officially knows that Nicole is aware of what happened between them. Margot, girl, call your mama or have her send you a plane ticket away from there. You in trouble, girl. And then David's deranged ass goes to Nicole's house to try to apologize to her family, but you know Nicole's dad was not trying to hear that shit and sends him on his way. And to show how David is sliding off to the deep end, even more than he already has, we see him give himself a very bad tattoo. Nicole forever. Child. Anyway, we then go to Nicole going to school. The school staff have been alerted and know about David, so there won't be no sneaking in this time. It should have never happened, but yeah. And as Nicole heads into school, her and Gary walk in together, and of course, David's spying ass saw this, and you know it was only a matter of time before Gary received a visit. So after school, while Gary's walking home through the woods of all places, David pays him that visit. Gary tried his best to get away, but it was all in vain, and he gets got. And from here on out, David shows his whole entire ass. He destroys Nicole's dad's car. Then he follows Nicole, Laura, and Toby around the mall. He even corners Nicole in the mall restroom and starts talking fairy tales and fallacies galore.
You gotta listen to me, Nicole. You gotta use the one thing you have that can hear the real me. It's not what I say. It's not the way you see me acting. It's here. Your daddy knows it. Everybody knows it. Can't let them take that away from us, Nicole.
Poor Nicole. David got her stressed. And while this is going on, Nicole's dad decides to break into David's temporary home and trash his room. He even leaves a little message for him. He meant well, but he always made things worse than they needed to be. And when David makes it home and his friends see what happened, it's on. And things get even more interesting from here. So, later on that night, they're all home. Nicole and Laura have a heart-to-heart, and for once, they finally see where each other are coming from. And Nicole's dad is on the phone with the police yet again. And of course, they didn't have no solutions for his ass. Meanwhile, David and his boys are headed their way to start a little trouble, and David gives them a warning.
Remember, Nicole ain't part of this game.
While this is happening, Margot comes over to tell them that Gary was killed and they don't have to wonder too hard about who did it. And again, Nicole's dad hops on the phone with the police, yet and still, they ain't hearing him. Well, this time it's because David and his friends have cut their phone line. Shortly after, David and his friends get to the family dog, and as Toby whistles for him, they slide the dog's head into the doggy door and declare that one of them is next in line to be beheaded. Child, things go from 0 to 1,000 real quick, and Nicole has to admit, while they're about to lose their lives, that David has the code to the house, just in time to stop him from entering. In David's mind, it's game on.
It all could have been different, Mr. Walker. You should have allowed nature to take its course. In the end, it will anyway.
So let me in the fucking house!
Dude, it's a mother problem. From here, it goes fast. David and his friends pretty much attack the house from all angles. The kids go upstairs while the parents stay downstairs. Child, these fools got drills, trying to break through the windows, trying to ram the doors open with a small tree trunk. It's a mess. And while the kids are upstairs, they see one of David's friends trying to get into Nicole's window, but Nicole is able to send him down. Nicole soon gets the bright idea to signal to the security guard for help. And when the security guard tries to call and notices their phone is off, he decides to go down and check it out. This will prove to be fatal because soon after he gets to the house, he gets got. Because how in the hell was one little security guard gonna handle all them at the same time? He should have called for backup. So Nicole's dad gets captured and he begs Laura to not let them in the house, but you already know what she did. Yep, she let them in the house. Something about these 90s thrillers. They made sure to make your blood pressure go through the roof, child. But anyway, as she lets them in the house, Toby goes to his room and sneaks out the window and somehow makes it to the car where there's the car phone. Meanwhile, one of David's friends makes it up to Nicole's room, and while Margot and Nicole try to jump him, he gets the best of them and starts to jump on Margot. As Toby's messing around in the car, one of David's friends finds him in the garage, but Toby does what needs to be done. That's what I'm talking about. But why did he go back in the house though? He should have stayed outside. But he goes to get the handcuff keys off the security guard so he can get the handcuffs off his mom. And David finally makes his way to Nicole, but when he sees his friend getting a bit too friendly, he offs him without hesitation and then turns the gun to Nicole's dad. And David tries to convince her that this must be done if they want to be together. Dude, I'm 100% sure at this point she is done with your ass. But this dude don't see this quite yet. And while he's trying to convince Nicole of the never gonna happen, this gives Margot and her dad some time to distract him so that Nicole can deliver a blow. But even this wasn't enough, and Nicole's dad and David have a final battle, and you already know that this was gonna end only one way. And David is thrown out the window and it's finally over. And everybody lives except the security guard and Gary. Pola Tink Tink. Why did 90s thrillers always end like this? No end scene or wrap up, just cut to the credits, child. And that's the end of the movie. And here are my final thoughts. If this ain't a cautionary tale, I don't know what is. This film perfectly depicts the stages of an abusive relationship. The love bombing, the person showing you a souped up version of themselves, the slow isolation, getting you away from people who see them for who they are and will try to protect you, the mask falling off and you struggling to figure out what's real and what's not with this person, the breakup makeup cycle, and then how dangerous it is to leave. David was a big problem, and he followed the abusive partner timeline to a T. He completely love bombed Nicole. He listened closely to her life story, which she should have kept to herself. He saw the holes that he could fill or use to get closer to her and eventually isolates her. He paid close attention so he knew how to move and what to expect. She revealed so much of herself while he revealed nothing and became what he thought she wanted him to be. And this relationship moved so fast. And I guess when you're young, this can happen, especially when it's your first relationship and you don't know what to expect. And for Nicole, not only was it her first relationship, but David became her safe space. She thought he could do no wrong, and in her defense, that's what he showed her. Nicole was still getting used to living with her dad. It appeared that her dad wasn't involved much up until that point, so not only did she have to adjust to being around her dad full time and building a relationship with him, she also had to adjust and build a relationship with Laura and her son Toby. She was very detached from her dad, so that left a space for David to come in and wreak havoc. When the mask fell off David, this was when he showed his jealous and violent side by beating up her friend Gary. Nicole was adamant about breaking up with him, which was great, but later when her dad tried to assert his power and make demands about leaving David, which she was already trying to do on her own, this caused her to reject what he was saying and run right back to David. It was almost as if she was saying, "How dare you, after all these years of not being there, trying to tell me what to do?" He approached the situation wrong and it backfired. I believe if he would have just let Laura continue talking to her alone, she would have made the right decision and kept her distance from David. She needed compassion at that moment, not her daddy trying to finally assert some authority. I'm not saying to let shit slide by any means, but he should have read the room and came in with the right tool for the conversation. And her going back to David made it even harder for her dad to reach her. But what really got me was how Laura let David feel comfortable enough to come back into their home after the black eye. David's manipulation was so strong that he even had Laura and Toby eating out the palm of his hand. There was no way that David should have been able to hang around as he did before. I get Laura was trying to keep Nicole close, but child, not like that. Laura and her dad should have been a united front. By allowing David to infiltrate and come around, Laura made Nicole's dad the lone bad guy and made it even harder for Nicole to listen to reason and made it easier for David to exploit that. This allowed David to continue to love bomb and isolate Nicole. He and his friends took advantage of Margot, and David even killed Gary for trying to protect her. It wasn't until Nicole saw him with his mask off that she was able to see who David truly was and finally take in what her dad was trying to tell her. And this is where it got dangerous for everybody. Nicole was his supply, so the thought of anybody getting in the way of that, David couldn't even accept that. So much so that he showed up to her house to try to sucker her daddy, the same guy he lied on 2 days prior. But when he was rejected and it started to settle in that Nicole might be gone for good, he went into overdrive. But here are a few things I hope for these characters. I hope Nicole became more cautious when it came to relationships. I hope her and her daddy developed a stronger bond. I hope her daddy learned to involve Laura more when it came to Nicole and also learned how to be a united front. No bad guy, good guy. I hope Margot healed and learned how to explore her sexuality without making herself vulnerable to people who would take advantage or misuse her. I hope they paid the family of the security guard and looked out for the family of Gary, cause they was trying to look out for y'all and got. Oh, and last but certainly not least, we have to acknowledge that Toby was a real MVP. Anyway, that's it, y'all. Thanks for watching this review. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. This review will be available on Spotify per usual. And to give you a clue for the next review, all I'm going to say is 1995 Hughes Brothers Classic. Bye!